I'd just like to take this opportunity to welcome everyone to Chemong School. It is certainly an honor to have you here today, and I think it's been very special for those kindergartens. I'm not sure they know the significance of it, but it will make an interesting story. So thanks again for coming to Chemong, and I'd like to now welcome Chairperson of our board, Kathy Abraham, to speak.
Thank you very much, Principal Woodback. I'd like to begin my comments by acknowledging that we're meeting on the traditional territory of the Mississauga First Nations, and we're very pleased and happy to do so. I'd also like to acknowledge that along with some of my trustee colleagues, we also have with us today the chair of the Hastings Prince Edward Public School Board, Lucille Kyle, and welcome, Lucille, to Chemong. And also, of course, welcome to the minister. We're always thrilled when the minister or anybody that we work with closely to provide awesome education arrives at one of our schools. And we just spent, as the people in the room know, some minutes listening to a story in kindergarten. And I was saying to Minister Hunter as we walked down the halls, the joy of being a trustee is when you're having a really, really bad day, you can show up at one of your schools and say, just show me some happy children. And you will find happy children, not just in Chemong, but in all of our schools across the board. So thank you so much for being here. My official duty today is to introduce Jeff Leal. Many of you know Jeff Leal is the MPP for Peterborough, and we're very happy to work together with him, along with his colleagues, and I'm sure he's going to be introducing, but they're very good partners of ours in education. So Jeff Leal, you're on.
Thanks so much, Kathy. Thanks so much, Kathy, for that very kind and very gracious introduction. Great to be here, Chemong Public School today, and of course with the other trustees, your colleagues Diane Lloyd, Mary Lynch Taylor, Rose Kitney, Wayne Bonner, and of course Lucille Kali, who's the chair of the public board in Hastings. But more importantly, I have two of my hardworking colleagues here, gentlemen that I've known a long time. First of all, my good friend Lou Rinaldi, the MPP for Northumberland, Quinte West. Lou and I both entered the legislature in the fall of 2003. And of course, we both have a background in municipal politics. Lou was the great mayor of the community of Brighton for many years, and certainly was very involved in changing the direction of the community of Brighton to what it is today. A great hub down there for manufacturing business. And if you're ever available on a Saturday night, Brighton Speedway, the family-owned business, if you talk to Lou nicely today, he'll give you some free tickets. So ask him about that. And secondly, of course, Granville Anderson. Granville joined our team in June of 2014, representing the wonderful riding of Durham. And of course, before that, he was a long-standing trustee with my wife's board, the Peterborough, Victorian, Northumberland, and Newcastle Roman Catholic Separate School Board. And Granville has always been a great advocate for education, so his fit is great when it comes to being the parliamentary assistant to the Minister of Education in the province of Ontario. Granville spends a lot of time at schools in the Durham region and knows the value of investment in public education in the province of Ontario. Our government, your government, takes great pride in our rural and northern communities and recognizing how important they are to the fabric of this province. I look at public policy from a very simple perspective. Karen and I, my wife, some of you know, is a principal at St. Patrick's Elementary School in the city of Peterborough. We have a son, 19, Braden Leal. We have a daughter, Sinead, 17. And I like to tell audiences that everywhere I visit in the province of Ontario, there's a Braden and there's a Sinead Leal. And we want to make sure, through our investments in public education, that those kids, the next generation of leaders, get the opportunity to seek their destiny right in their communities, to continue to build their communities as great places to live, work, and play. And I know from great experience, public education in the city of Peterborough, and that great compass that education provides you all through your life, and the need to have constant learning as we all meet the objectives and challenges of the 21st century. Our government is certainly committed to doing that and continue to make investments. I also want to chat about a third member of the team, Grant Crack. He couldn't be with us today. He represents the great riding of Glengarry, Prescott, and Russell in rural Eastern Ontario. Grant Crack, of course, like Lou and myself, has a background in municipal politics. Grant, Lou, and Granville. We're on the road consistently and extensively to meet with rural leaders in the province of Ontario and come up with a plan that I think sets a path forward for many of our rural schools in Ontario. So, with all of that, it gives me great pleasure to introduce my friend, our colleague, the Minister of Education, the Honourable Mitzie Hunter.
Thank you so much, and I just want to say it's really great being here at Chemong Public School, and absolutely I want to say thank you to Jeff, to Granville, and to Lou, and to Grant, who's not here, for your leadership and the voice that you bring in terms of the importance of our focus on rural education, and for really leading the consultation process that has led us to this point. So I want to thank you very much for that. And it's such a delight being at this school and in the kindergarten class. Wasn't that just so wonderful? And I know it's the second to last day of school, so our students are so excited about the summer that is ahead. I want to, Principal Webeck, thank you so much for just inviting us here and welcoming us this morning. And I want to thank both chairs for taking the time out to join us as well. So hello, bonjour, bozo. I want to start by acknowledging that Bridgenorth is on the traditional territories of Indigenous people dating back countless generations. I want to show respect for the contributions and recognize the role of treaty making in what is now Ontario. Hundreds of years after the original treaties are signed, they are alive and relevant to all of us today. Je suis heureuse d'être ici avec vous aujourd'hui. Thank you to everyone for joining us here today. What brings us here is, as Minister Leal has said, our government's commitment to ensuring that students living in rural and northern communities have access to the best quality education. Our government is committed to working with school boards, with communities, and we continue to make changes that are in the best interest of all students. Schools play a vital role in our community, and particularly in rural and northern communities. Over time, some school closures and others are opened. That's the natural order. When a decision is made to close a school, it is due to a variety of factors, including the demographic changes, aging infrastructure, or low enrollment. And these are difficult decisions for parents, for students, for communities, and for school boards. I understand that these are some of the most difficult decisions that school boards have to make, and that school boards and communities consider those decisions very, very strongly. And that's why we engaged with our rural and our northern communities to ensure that the thoughts and the ideas of students, parents, school boards, communities, and others are reflected. And what we heard from you was compelling and meaningful. What we heard, for instance, was that communications amongst school boards, governments, and communities needs to be more frequent and needs to include more community input with a focus on well-being of rural and northern communities. We heard that all stakeholders, including the province, municipal governments, community partners, and school boards, need to make efforts to work together to remove barriers to community hubs, build community capacity, strengthen local integrated planning, and enhance service delivery. And we continue to hear that the process of pupil accommodation reviews is too quick. It doesn't allow for sufficient time to explore alternative opportunities and ideas. We heard how students in rural and northern communities would benefit from additional flexible supports that address the unique needs of those communities. From Merrickville to Honey Harbor, from Thetford to Nipigon, we heard your ideas for enhancing the quality of education in rural and northern communities. You provided us with very rich feedback. And I want to say thank you to everyone who participated, and I especially want to thank the 3 parliamentary assistants, Lou Rinaldi, Granville Anderson, and Grant Crack, who led these engagements across 10 communities. I would like to take a moment to assure parents that our number 1 priority is the best possible outcome for students, irrespective of where children and youth live within our rural and northern communities. Our plan is to ensure that they have access to a high-quality education. Il faut donner à tous les élèves la possibilité de réussir. We heard that the process that school boards use to review their schools must be improved across the province and in particular in rural and northern communities. It must be more inclusive of community and student perspectives, and that is why over the coming months we will be overhauling the pupil accommodation review process to focus on its impact to communities and student well-being. We heard that a stronger process is needed for school boards, including clear communications, the exploration of multiple options, and clearer roles for students, staff, and elected officials from both the school boards and municipal governments. Therefore, until the overhaul is complete, there will be no new reviews taking place, unless those reviews support joint use projects between school boards, or of course there is a student or staff health and safety concern. We want to ensure that this revised process continually improves to benefit our communities, our schools, and our students, because each and every student in Ontario deserves equal access to an excellent education. We know that school is often the heart of a community, especially in many northern and rural communities. We heard through our rural and northern engagements that we must do more to support our schools and their communities. And that is why we are investing an additional $20 million in a rural and northern education fund towards a new fund. This fund will be dedicated to support students from rural and northern communities. And boards will be able to use this funding on a number of important priorities that we heard about directly from communities, like providing students with more access to flexible transportation options, or French immersion, or arts education, or improvements to supports for students with special needs. This fund will support our school boards in meeting their local needs, and it will build on recent investments in quality education for rural and northern students, including access to 21st century learning opportunities, e-learning, experiential learning, and increasing dedicated supports for rural students with special education needs. Because part of what we heard is that each community has unique needs, and that school boards should have the flexibility to enhance the quality of education in these communities. We will also undertake an immediate review of the Community Planning and Partnership Guideline. And this review will focus on encouraging ongoing communications between school boards, municipal governments, and community partners about capital plans to share school space. This will help in maintaining a school's presence in communities, to ensure that the province, the school boards, communities, municipal governments, all of us must continue to work together to ensure that all avenues are explored to strengthen education in rural and northern communities. We believe that these steps will provide students in our rural and northern communities in Ontario with the supports needed to increase their access to high-quality programs and services. So, the steps that we are taking today to strengthen the education experience for Ontario's rural and northern communities are important steps. For the future of Ontario's students, for families and communities, and they are important steps for the success of our great province. We must all work together to build strong communities. One of our government's top priorities is ensuring that all students in Ontario receive a high-quality education. And I have no doubt that by continuing to work together with our partners, Ontario's students will continue to thrive in a globally competitive world, no matter where they are or where they grow up in Ontario. So I want to thank you for your contributions and for your support, and I'm very happy to take any questions that are being asked right now. Do we have any questions?
You guys?
You're good? Okay. So thank you, merci, and miigwech. And I want to wish everyone a happy Canada Day and enjoy the summer. Thank you.
I just want to make sure that from my ministry's perspective, Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs, we'll be taking the opportunity to develop a high-skilled major program in agriculture in rural communities across the province of Ontario. Essentially, what we're seeing today, as I've been traveling the province, we really have a shortage. There's lots of opportunities in the agriculture area, and we want to make sure in high school that we give those students those opportunities. Here is, if you're looking for a career in the 21st century, agriculture is going to be the place to be. The United Nations tells us by the year 2050, there will be 9 billion people in the world to feed. Countries like Canada and the United States are going to be called upon to fill that gap. So we want to make sure that we have the skill set available in the next number of years to work in this sector.
Fantastic. Thank you.